a 300-meter pit lane built, 23 heart racing turns designed, and a city buzzing with anticipation. This is the story of the Vietnamese Grand Prix that never was. Hanoi's streets, once primed for the roar of engines and the cheer of crowds, lay silent. But now, as rumors swirl around the F1 Group CEO, the question arises: is Vietnam poised for a triumphant return to the F1 stage? Rev your engines, because the race may be back on! Let's rev our engines back to 2017, the year of wild corporate adventures and audacious takeovers that made Elon Musk's Twitter account look tame. This was the time when Liberty Media, a conglomerate with a penchant for sports and entertainment, had its eyes set on a glittering prize: Formula One. In a move as swift as a pit stop, Liberty Media completed its acquisition of F1 from a consortium of sellers, putting Chase Carey in the driving seat as CEO, alongside the respectable Bernie Ecclestone, now Chairman Emeritus. This acquisition was the biggest crossover event since spaghetti met meatballs, and it promised to spice up the F1 menu with some exotic flavors.
Nice.
With the ink still fresh on the deal, the new captains of this fast-paced ship had a vision to steer Formula One into uncharted territories, to new markets, new audiences, and new adventures. And who better to helm this ambitious voyage than Chase Carey, a man with a mustache as iconic as some of the sport's most legendary circuits. If mustaches were a measure of strategic insight, then Carey was set to outdo the cleverest of them all. But hey, let's give credit where it's due. Before Liberty's grand takeover, there was Bernie Ecclestone. Bernie, with his sharp instincts and even sharper business acumen, had already toyed with this idea, predicting a Vietnamese Grand Prix by 2020. Maybe his crystal ball was a bit foggy on this one, or maybe he just didn't fancy the foe. Fast forward to 2018, under Liberty's glitzy banner, the Vietnamese Grand Prix was announced. Soon, the press release drops, and the world of F1 is buzzing with excitement. The streets of Hanoi, usually buzzing with scooters, were all set to become the latest F1 pit stop. And what a pit stop! It was like planning a big party, only to realize you forgot to invite the guests. As they say, the best laid plans of mice and men often end up as just another traffic jam in Hanoi. Let's dive deeper into the nitty-gritty of the Hanoi street circuit, a racetrack that nearly had its moment in the F1 sun, but instead found itself ghosted like an ex's unread text messages. Designed by the circuit wizard Herman Tilke, known for his work from the Yas Marina to the Circuit of the Americas, the Hanoi circuit was poised to be his next masterpiece. Tilke, a man who could probably design a racetrack while blindfolded and riding a unicycle, brought all his experience to the table. His reputation? Kind of like dipping French fries in ice cream. Some can't get enough, others would rather eat the menu. The Hanoi street circuit, stretching over 5.6 kilometers, was a concoction of fast straights and challenging turns, designed to test the skill and nerve of the world's best drivers. Picture this, a 1.5 kilometer straight, one of the longest in F1, where cars could reach eye-watering speeds before slamming on the brakes for a tight turn. The track's design was a love letter to F1's rich history, featuring 23 turns, each as unique as the fingerprints on a mechanic's oily rag.
I'm a mechanic.
With inspirations from the S's of Suzuka and the fast sweeps of Silverstone, the circuit was like a best-of compilation album of racetracks, but with a unique regional twist, like adding a dash of Vietnamese chili sauce to a traditional English breakfast.
Stop with some beans.
The design also took into account the city's topography, blending the circuit into Hanoi's urban landscape. It even involved 3-story pit buildings influenced by Hanoi's historic architecture, merging the old with the new. You see, Tilke was like, I am totally into making the track and the city vibe together, you know. Like creating this epic fusion of concrete and cool architecture. But to his credit, designing a street circuit is hard. It requires precision, creativity, and the patience of a saint. Or at least a monk who has taken a vow of endless racetrack loops. And the innovation didn't stop there. The pit lane design was a real game changer, with an aim to reduce the time lost during pit stops and add an extra layer of strategy to the race. Rumor has it that they were considering offering fast food options during pit stops. Hey McLaren, would you like fries with that tyre change? Let's rewind to the pre-pandemic era. Hanoi, bustling with life and steeped in history, was gearing up for something it had never seen before. The city was about to undergo a transformation that made even Optimus Prime's morphing look like child's play. Far from just laying down some asphalt and painting a few lines, Hanoi had to be ready to welcome a whole new universe of technology, teams, and turbocharged engines. They were basically turning the streets into the Fast and Furious meets Star Wars. The infrastructure development for the Grand Prix was an endeavour straight out of a blockbuster movie. The new circuit layout was a 5.607-kilometre long tarmac masterpiece with a whopping 23 turns. A feat that put it on par with Singapore's Marina Bay Street Circuit in terms of twisty complexity. With its extra corner added for safety upgrade, the track was a nod to modern racing standards and a signal of Vietnam's commitment to hosting a top-tier sporting event. Roads were repaved, stands erected, and the entire city got a facelift faster than you could say lights out. According to the news reports, locals were stunned when a 300-meter pit building emerged from the ground overnight. Now that's what we call magic. But it wasn't just about the physical changes. The economic and community expectations were higher than a SpaceX rocket. Vietnam was ready to strut its stuff on the global stage, not just in racing, but also in culture, hospitality, and Southeast Asian flair. The Grand Prix was seen as the ultimate Tinder profile pic, a golden ticket to boost tourism, give the local economy a makeover, and show the world that Vietnam was the cool kid on the block. They even considered replacing the welcome signs at the airport with "You have arrived at the F1 hotspot" banners. Then, just as the excitement was hitting fever pitch, a twist in the tale. The COVID-19 pandemic, a global curveball that no one saw coming. The pandemic spread turned the world on its head, and the Vietnamese Grand Prix was not immune. Discussions among F1 authorities, the Hanoi People's Committee, and the Vietnamese government led to the inevitable yet heartbreaking decision. The 2020 Vietnamese Grand Prix was postponed and eventually cancelled. Sorry folks, we're closed for a virus pit stop. But the impact was broader than just one missed race. The 2020 F1 season was thrown into disarray, with races getting cancelled or rescheduled. Teams, drivers, and organisers scrambled to adapt to a rapidly changing situation, grappling with travel restrictions, health protocols, and the daunting task of keeping the sports spirit alive amid a global crisis. It got so crazy that the F1 drivers started racing online in their pajamas, and instead of champagne, the winners sprayed hand sanitizer on the podium. But what if we told you there's a little more to the story than just engines failing to start and tyres left unscorched? Enter stage left, Nguyen Juk Chung, born 1967, a man who could have been the Grand Marshal at the F1 parade, but instead found himself navigating a thorny legal maze when he was charged with corruption. Chung, juggling more titles than a monkey on a unicycle as chairman of the Hanoi People's Committee and a major general for crying out loud, suddenly found himself in a pickle that no amount of smooth talking or even circus tricks could get him out of. And we're not talking about your average everyday mishaps here. In 2020, he got caught appropriating some top-secret state documents. To make matters even stickier, he was also caught playing favourites with the family business and giving a leg up to a buddy's business in a bidding war. The judge slammed the gavel, and Chung was looking at a 10-year vacation behind bars. But how did this political pit stop affect the Vietnamese Grand Prix? Well, Chung was a key proponent of the Grand Prix. His support is crucial to the event as aerodynamics are to an F1 car. It wasn't long before the decision was made to indefinitely delay and then eventually cancel the event. The reason officially waved out like a checkered flag was the COVID-19 pandemic. But the whispers in the paddock suggested that Chung's issues might have had their part to play. For a city that had geared up to host a global sporting spectacle, the cancellation was a bitter pill to swallow. Roads once groomed for F1 glory returned to hosting scooters and street vendors. Stands meant to resonate with engine roars now echoed only with the occasional honking of commuter traffic. Hanoi's dream of global spotlight deflated faster than a punctured tyre on a final lap. Ever since COVID-19 played spoiler and Nguyen Duc Chung's legal escapades threw a wrench in the works, everyone assumed that the Vietnamese Grand Prix was as likely as seeing a scooter win a drag race against an F1 car. But there's a twist in the tale. The revival attempts and future prospects for Vietnam in the F1 circuit are revving up, thanks to a certain Stefano Domenicali, F1 Group CEO, who's steering these efforts like a maestro at the wheel. There's reason to believe that Domenicali has been negotiating Vietnam's return to the F1 calendar for 2024. His recent pit stop in Hanoi, meeting with the new brass, the president, prime minister, and mayor, might be a little more than a courtesy call. To his credit, it'd be hard to turn down the idea when the economic and cultural razzmatazz could jolt Vietnam's economy like a double espresso on a Monday morning. But let's not kid ourselves, it's not all smooth driving. The cost would be mere trifle at over $100 million, pocket change in the grand scheme of F1 economics. But getting the Hanoi street circuit ready for 2024 is like trying to assemble a 1,000-piece Lego set without the instruction manual. Safety checks? That last tricky corner of the track needs more work than a student cramming the night before finals. Last time, the Hanoi circuit took over 3,000 workers and engineers, working around the clock to ensure it met the FIA's safety standards. This time, they might need to hire a team of raccoon engineers, the experts in assembling anything they find. But this isn't just about Vietnam revving up its engines for a grand return. It's about F1's expansion strategy, a global conquest of new tracks and territories, with the likes of South Africa also in the running. It's like they're playing a high-stakes game of Monopoly, but instead of buying Park Place, they're snatching up racetracks left and right. Vietnam's inclusion in the 2024 season could be their chance to shout, "I've got the checkered flag!" as they add another property to their racing empire, right next to Singapore's swanky hotels. But, you know, with every new track comes a truckload of challenges, logistical nightmares that make your GPS go, quit. Budget blowouts that make even Elon Musk's wallet cringe. And the constant tug of war between tradition and innovation. But hey, F1 in South Africa sounds exciting. And if they ever have trouble with the track, they can just ring up a bunch of Cape Town penguins. Those guys are experts at sliding around the corners. They've got the tuxedos and everything. What do you think is the next stop on F1's international calendar? Drop your predictions in the comments, and remember to like and subscribe for more adrenaline-fueled content!